The breathtaking Cliff House, a location that holds so much history, trauma, and triumph for the Forrester family, is chosen as the venue for this whirlwind celebration. Deacon wants nothing more than to give Taylor the romantic fairy tale moment she has been deprived of for so many years. He pulls out all the stops, transforming the stunning oceanfront property into a floral paradise, adorned with cascading white roses and the soft, romantic glow of countless candles. The sheer speed of the event is highly intentional. Deacon knows that the longer they wait, the more time the naysayers will have to plant seeds of doubt in Taylor's mind. More importantly, he subconsciously hopes that a swift, legally binding union will serve as the ultimate protective barrier against the lingering, venomous shadow of his ex-wife. Deacon is a man driven by a profound need for redemption, and in his eyes, marrying Taylor Hayes is the ultimate proof that he has finally stepped out of the darkness and into the light of a respectable, loving life. For Taylor Hayes, this sudden wedding is a whirlwind of overwhelming emotion and long-awaited validation. After spending decades caught in the agonizing, cyclical tug-of-war over Ridge Forrester and constantly feeling like the second choice to Brooke Logan, Taylor finally has a man who puts her first without any hesitation. Deacon's unwavering attention and fierce loyalty have provided her with a sense of security she has not felt in years. As she stands in the bridal suite of her daughter's home, looking at her reflection in the mirror, Taylor feels a profound sense of peace. She is draped in an elegant, understated gown that perfectly captures her sophisticated grace. Despite the lingering whispers of concern from her daughter, Steffy Forrester Finnegan, who remains deeply suspicious of Deacon's past ties, Taylor is ready to embrace this new chapter. She firmly believes that love can conquer all, and that Deacon's transformation is genuine. However, Taylor's psychological expertise and natural intuition are momentarily blinded by the intoxicating rush of romance, leaving her tragically unaware of the catastrophic danger that is currently slithering its way toward her sanctuary. Unbeknownst to the blissful couple and the small, intimate gathering of guests mingling in the living room, a deeply sinister presence has already breached the perimeter of the Cliff House. Sheila Carter is not a woman who accepts defeat, nor is she someone who can stand idly by while the man she loves pledges his eternal devotion to her most hated enemy. The very idea of Deacon Sharp, the man who sheltered her, loved her, and accepted her at her absolute worst, exchanging vows with the pristine, judgmental Taylor Hayes has triggered a complete and terrifying psychological fracture within Sheila's mind. The signed divorce papers, which Deacon foolishly believed were a symbol of Sheila's newfound sanity and acceptance, were nothing more than a calculated ruse. They were a smokescreen designed to lull Deacon and the rest of the family into a false sense of security. In reality, Sheila has been consumed by a toxic, burning jealousy that has entirely eroded whatever fragile grip she had on reality. She is unwilling to let Deacon go, and she is certainly not going to allow Taylor to claim the happiness that Sheila believes rightfully belongs to her. Utilizing her unmatched, terrifying talent for deception and disguise, Sheila manages to infiltrate the highly secure Cliff House. Dressed impeccably in the uniform of the hired catering staff, complete with a subtle wig and strategically applied makeup to alter her facial features, she blends seamlessly into the background of the bustling party. Sheila navigates the familiar layout of the Cliff House with chilling precision. This is the very same property where she has previously unleashed untold horrors, a place saturated with the traumatic memories of her past crimes against the family. Yet, she moves with a calm, predatory focus, carrying a tray of champagne glasses while her eyes dart around, tracking the movements of the guests and the security personnel. Her mind is a chaotic swirl of vindictive fantasies and calculated strategies. She does not intend to simply cause a scene or stop the wedding with a dramatic verbal objection in front of the crowd. Sheila's plan is far more sinister and deeply disturbing. She intends to kidnap Taylor Hayes right before she can walk down the aisle. Her twisted logic dictates that by removing her rival from the equation permanently, she can force Deacon back into her waiting arms. As the music begins to softly play in the living room, signaling that the ceremony is about to commence, Sheila slips away from the main gathering area and silently makes her way down the hallway toward the bridal suite. Her heart pounds with a twisted, adrenaline-fueled excitement. She visualizes the look of absolute terror that will wash over Taylor's face when she realizes who is standing before her. Sheila carefully retrieves a chemically soaked cloth from the pocket of her apron, her grip tightening as she approaches the closed door. The audacity of her plan is matched only by her sheer desperation. She truly believes that this violent abduction is a necessary act of love, a twisted crusade to save Deacon from making the biggest mistake of his life. She turns the doorknob with agonizing slowness, slipping into the room and locking the door behind her with a soft, ominous click. Inside the bridal suite, Taylor turns around, expecting to see Steffy coming to escort her down the aisle. Instead, she is met with the cold, dead-eyed stare of her absolute worst nightmare. Sheila slowly removes her disguise, a wicked, triumphant smile spreading across her face as she watches the color drain entirely from Taylor's cheeks. The confrontation is instantly electric, thick with years of mutual hatred and unresolved trauma. Taylor, drawing upon her extensive psychological training, attempts to remain calm, trying to reason with the unhinged woman standing between her and the door. She tells Sheila that Deacon has moved on, that this violent path will only lead her back to a cold prison cell. But Sheila is far beyond the reach of logic, reason, or empathy. She taunts Taylor, mocking her pristine image and declaring that Deacon will never truly love anyone but her. The psychological warfare escalates rapidly, with Sheila brandishing the chloroform cloth, stepping closer to the paralyzed bride like a predator cornering its prey. Meanwhile, out in the main living area, John Finnegan is experiencing a deep, unsettling sense of unease. As a dedicated doctor, Finn is highly attuned to his environment, and as a survivor of Sheila's past violence, his trauma instincts are sharply honed. He notices a discarded catering tray on a side table and realizes a staff member has mysteriously vanished from the floor. A cold chill runs down his spine as a sickening realization begins to take hold in his mind. The hair on the back of his neck stands up, and the joyous, celebratory sounds of the wedding party suddenly seem muffled, replaced by the ringing alarm bells in his head. Finn excuses himself from Steffy's side, his eyes scanning the crowd with growing panic. He remembers the alleyway behind Il Giardino, the deafening sound of the gunshot, the horrifying sight of his wife bleeding out on the trash-covered pavement. That same suffocating aura of impending doom is permeating the Cliff house right now, and he cannot ignore it. Trusting his gut intuition, Finn abandons the party and sprints down the hallway toward the bridal suite, his heart hammering against his ribs as he calls out for his mother-in-law. He reaches the door to the bridal suite and finds it firmly locked from the inside. He pounds his fists against the heavy wood, shouting Taylor's name with increasing desperation, but the only response is the terrifying sound of a muffled struggle coming from within the room. Adrenaline flooding his system, Finn takes a few steps back and throws his entire body weight against the door. The wood splinters, and the lock gives way with a loud, violent crack that echoes down the hallway. Finn bursts into the room, and the sight that greets him is straight out of a horror movie. Sheila has Taylor backed against the vanity, aggressively trying to force the chemical-soaked cloth over the bride's mouth and nose to incapacitate her. Taylor is fighting back with everything she has, her beautiful wedding gown tearing in the desperate struggle for her life. The sheer audacity of his biological mother attempting to abduct and harm his mother-in-law on what was supposed to be a day of joyous celebration pushes Finn completely over the edge. He lets out a guttural yell and charges forward, determined to protect his family at all costs. The intervention by Finn sparks a horrifying, violent scuffle that tears the elegant bridal suite apart. Sheila, fueled by the manic strength of a cornered animal and absolute desperation, lashes out wildly. She refuses to let her meticulously crafted kidnapping plot fail now. Finn grabs Sheila, trying to pull her away from Taylor, but Sheila fights back with vicious, unrestrained brutality. She uses her surroundings as weapons, hurling heavy perfume bottles and decorative glass vases at Finn to keep him at bay. The struggle is a chaotic, terrifying blur of flying glass, torn fabric, and desperate screams for help. Taylor, gasping for air and trying to assist Finn in subduing the attacker, is caught in the terrifying crossfire of the brawl. The three of them crash into a large, ornate mirror, shattering it into 1,000 jagged pieces that rain down upon them. The violence is raw, visceral, and deeply traumatizing, a stark, sickening contrast to the romantic vows that were meant to be spoken just a few rooms away. In the midst of the terrifying chaos, tragedy strikes with brutal, unforgiving suddenness. As Sheila violently shoves Finn backward to clear her path to the door, she simultaneously strikes out at Taylor with immense force. The blow sends Taylor stumbling backward, her high heels catching on the edge of a shredded rug. Taylor loses her balance and falls incredibly hard, her head colliding with the sharp, unforgiving edge of a solid marble side table. A sickening crack echoes through the room, instantly freezing the combatants in their tracks. Taylor collapses to the floor, completely unresponsive, as a dark, terrifying pool of crimson blood begins to rapidly spread across the pristine white fabric of her wedding dress. The life-threatening severity of the injury is immediately apparent to everyone in the room. The beautiful bride, who just moments ago was radiating hope and joy for her future, now lies critically wounded, her life hanging precariously in the balance as the direct result of Sheila's maniacal jealousy. The sound of the shattering mirror and the ensuing screams finally alert the rest of the wedding guests in the living room. Steffy Forrester Finnegan is the first to reach the bridal suite, rushing through the splintered doorway with terror in her eyes. The horrific scene before her causes time to stand entirely still. Her beloved mother is bleeding out on the floor, her husband is bruised and panting, and the monster who has tormented their family for decades is standing amidst the bloody wreckage. Steffy's severe post-traumatic stress disorder is instantly triggered by the sight of the blood and the presence of her shooter, but the paralyzing fear quickly morphs into an absolute, blinding, and unbridled fury. The maternal and daughterly instincts within Steffy merge into a ferocious, protective rage that consumes her entirely. She lets out a scream of pure agony and anger, rushing to her mother's side, while simultaneously locking her fierce, murderous gaze onto Sheila. Steffy's eyes are completely devoid of mercy. She is looking at a demon that needs to be eradicated from the face of the earth once and for all. Steffy makes a chilling, ironclad vow to everyone in the room, her voice trembling with lethal intent. She declares that she will not rest, she will not sleep, and she will not stop until she personally sees to it that Sheila Carter is thrown into a maximum security prison for the rest of her miserable life. And if the justice system fails her family once again, Steffy fiercely promises that she will take matters into her own hands, vowing to put Sheila in the grave if that is what it takes to protect her loved ones. Deacon Sharp pushes his way through the horrified crowd of guests, his face draining of all color as he takes in the catastrophic destruction. The man who had spent weeks meticulously planning a romantic fairy tale wedding is now staring at a blood-soaked nightmare of his own making. When Deacon sees Taylor, the woman he loves and was about to marry, lying motionless and bleeding on the floor, his entire world shatters into a million irreparable pieces. A crushing, suffocating wave of guilt crashes over him, dropping him straight to his knees beside her. He realizes, with absolute, horrifying clarity, that he is the one who brought this devil to the angel's doorstep. His naive belief that Sheila could be redeemed, his arrogant assumption that he could manage her darkness, has resulted in the near-fatal injury of his bride. Deacon is completely devastated, sobbing uncontrollably as Finn desperately begins to administer emergency medical aid to Taylor, barking orders for someone to call an ambulance immediately. Sensing that the situation has entirely slipped from her grasp and that the authorities will be arriving at any second, Sheila makes a rapid, calculated decision to flee the scene. Taking advantage of the sheer shock and chaos paralyzing the room, she violently shoves past a stunned guest and sprints down the hallway. Steffy attempts to lunge after her, but Finn grabs her arm, desperately needing her help to apply pressure to Taylor's severe head wound. Sheila bursts out of the back doors of the Cliff House, sprinting across the patio and disappearing into the dense, dark brush that lines the Pacific coastline. She escapes into the night like a phantom, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and broken promises. Her kidnapping plot may have failed, but she has successfully destroyed the wedding and inflicted maximum pain on the people who dared to cross her path. In the agonizing hours that follow, the Cliff House is transformed into a frantic crime scene as paramedics rush Taylor out on a stretcher, her life hanging by the thinnest of threads. But Sheila Carter is far from finished with her reign of terror. The failure of her kidnapping plot has not deterred her. Rather, it has ignited a new, even more dangerous level of unhinged determination. She realizes that she cannot simply take Deacon back by force. She must systematically destroy the support system that is keeping him away from her. Sheila transitions from a desperate, jealous ex-wife into a calculating architect of psychological terror. She begins to orchestrate a chilling, methodical campaign aimed directly at anyone who supported Deacon and Taylor's marriage. She knows their vulnerabilities, their fears, and their daily routines, and she intends to exploit every single one of them. Sheila's terror campaign begins with subtle, deeply unsettling tactics designed to break the minds of her enemies. Anonymous, threatening messages are delivered to Steffy, containing cryptic references to the blood spilled on the wedding dress, ensuring that Steffy's trauma remains fresh and agonizing. She leaves terrifying tokens for Deacon, constant, sickening reminders of the catastrophic failure of his judgment. Sheila is playing a sick game of cat and mouse, ensuring that Deacon cannot escape the consequences of his betrayal. The psychological torture is designed to break Deacon down completely, to strip away his newfound respectability until he is left with nothing and no one else to turn to but her. The romantic wedding that was supposed to represent healing and new beginnings has instead birthed a dark, chaotic era of fear and retribution, guaranteeing that the drama in Los Angeles is only just beginning, and the fallout from this bloody wedding day will be felt for generations to come.